license.
Hi, Kit.
Hello,
Hi, Kit.
how's everybody?
Good. Hey,
Good.
Kit. It's Richard. How are you?
All right, can't wait to get back there.
We can't, we want you here more than you know.
So Jimmy, you heard me, right? I have one thing to read.
Boom.
It's just Dave Cosgrove.
And what about that?
Yeah, it's on here,
That's fine.
I told him.
right here.
Okay. Got it.
I don't mind doing it.
Got it.
Can have a piece of paper here, but you gotta write better.
What?
They said if you wanna write me notes, but you gotta just more low.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm a jeweler, not a doctor. Right?
Jackie, he's gonna read it.
Okay,
Oh, good.
ready? Yeah,
We're ready, it's still a couple minutes.
okay.
Oh. You got 2 minutes.
Not that I know of, I'll just kid.
Are you calling Cheryl?
Thank you. Bye. I'm thinking as we speak.
Does it ring when she calls it? Oh. Cheryl?
It would be,
Oh, it beeps.
yeah, once someone comes on, and it'll-
Let's see.
There it is.
Finish.
Time? Yeah, it's
Okay.
7.
yeah,
Yeah.
just make sure Cheryl.
Cheryl, I'm gonna start, okay?
Yep.
Great. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 19th. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Burstein?
Here.
Ms. Prukas?
Here.
Ms. Bell Eglo?
Here.
Mr. Wasserman?
Here?
Mayor Lieberberg?
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the April 21st, 2020 Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the April 21st Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Reports. So I'll start. Good evening, fellow TC members and residents joining us remotely. There are currently 138 confirmed cases with COVID-19, confirmed residents with COVID-19, and this number approximately indicates a 63% recovery rate. Essex County has now set up a mobile testing unit for COVID-19 on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., in addition to the Weequahic Park Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please go to the Essex COVID-19 website to reserve a spot. It is free for all Essex County residents. FYI, next Thursday, May 28th, testing will be done at the Cody Arena in West Orange. That one so far is the closest to us in Millburn. Also, a friendly reminder to fill out our census, the 2020 census. We are about 70%, striving for 100. Let's get there. I want to remind everyone that the Millburn Farmers Market will begin on Tuesday, June 2nd, and that is just 2 weeks away. It will be located at the same lot across from Fiamma, Tuesdays 1 to 6. I'm pleased to announce that Dogwood Organic Farms, Allstead Farms, Ort Farms, Dr. Pickle, Paolo's Kitchen, and Gourmet Fruits and Nuts will be there. Please plan to stop by the market. Social distancing protocols will be observed, and it will be an opportunity to shop local. I'm also excited to announce that Millburn Township, in conjunction with Summit Sounds Entertainment, will be hosting 5 nights of drive-in movies from June 25th through June 29th at Millburn High School parking lot. Tomorrow, we will be posting a fun survey to gather interest on available movie options. Please check our social media and cast your vote. Stay tuned because additional information and registration will be available in the next couple of weeks. We will be observing social distancing protocols. It is guaranteed to be lots of fun. Please mark your calendars. Once again, those dates are June 25th through June 29th. I also would like to announce that the inaugural issue of our township newsletter will arrive in your inboxes on June 1st. Thank you to Deputy Mayor Prupus for being such a driver in this initiative. It will contain lots of information and provide important data points. Residents, you must be registered with this township Swift Alerts to receive it. Now more than ever, be sure to sign up. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Committeewoman Eglo for reports.
Thank you. I just want to point out we've been seeing a lot of bartering of all sorts of new and mostly used items on WorkMom, newcomers, and next door sites. We reached out to our Board of Health. While there are no guidelines or restrictions, we would urge caution when picking up clothes, books, recreation equipment, household goods, etc. It is your choice, but again, we urge caution because possible COVID-19 carrier status of these neighbors is unknown. I was very happy to hear that the libraries will be reopening in Governor Murphy's Phase 2. I know many of us missed the library. I shared with Alex McDonald and Mike Bannock a survey that was sent out to Springfield to their residents to weigh in on its reopening, curbside pickup, and hours they would frequent the library. I'm hoping this is something our library board and Mike Bannock, the director, would consider. We'll be having our first planning board Zoom meeting tomorrow night. Last week, Jackie, Alex, and I met at the cut-through area between Essex and Millburn Avenue. Jackie then met with the artists who helped coordinate the successful wheel project about what type of art could be placed on the outside of that building. I was thinking we could possibly discuss coming up with a name for that alley, which is actually an underutilized cut-through. We've been saying for quite a while now that Millburn needs wayfinding signage. And by naming and enhancing this cut-through, people would see how convenient the parking deck is to Millburn Avenue. It could be considered a little street without cars, a pedestrian way. Roxanne from the Chamber of Commerce had a great idea a while back that a decorative archway sign could really enhance and direct people here. Kind of like if you picture the Carnaby Street in London. So of course, we have to look into easements, and perhaps activities could take place here in the future. So I think that's really an exciting spot we could look at. And those are my reports, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Environmental Commission met last Tuesday, and they discussed and voted on an electric leaf blower ban, and they are wishing to discuss it or have it, bring it further, like gain more some community support and bring it back to the TC in August. So they're working on that. The 2020 vision plan is, the interviews are all set up for the second week in June, yep. And we're interviewing 4 firms, and we've invited 3 members of the planning board to sit in on the interviews. And they're all planners by profession, so that their input will be really valuable to us. And that's it.
When is that? June?
The second week in June is when we're going to be interviewing, so we'll have more information for you at probably June 16th. Is that?
Yep.
That? So I'll report back then.
Great.
Well,
Last but not least,
I'm very proud to announce that we'll be continuing a
On the
Millburn tradition of raising the pride flag on Friday, June 5th at 3 p.m. We're going to continue what Committeewoman Eglo has started last year. And I think that this goes to celebrating our strength and diversity in our community, and we're awaiting governor's orders in terms of whether it's going to be virtual or or exactly how many attendees we can have. But I would say we'll know about that in short order. In terms of revisioning, I've sitting out in a lot of very exciting meetings with Deputy Mayor Prupus, and I think that there are some really great creative ideas that we'll be talking about in the future. And then in terms of our business improvement district plans, I think that that's going to come up for discussion. So I'll wait to speak on that during that discussion. And those are my reports.
Committeewoman Burstein?
Yep, the dispatch center had a meeting on the 12th, and the new executive director, Jeremy DeMar, were on the meeting. It was his first meeting. So it was virtual, it was done on Zoom. And a couple of things that he talked about was revising staffing to allow for social distancing, arranging for symptomatic and asymptomatic testing. He discussed the lack of a backup site, and some other items that they are working on. Training officers, automatic aid in highways and rollover accidents. So he's got a lot on his plate, and he's pretty busy. And then the rec commission met last week also. Part 3 is open, and the tennis courts as well for member residents, reservation tennis, and they're waiting to hear what's going to happen with the pool and sports programs. That's all in flux at the moment.
Thank you. Alex McDonald?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. I'm glad Committeewoman Eglo brought up the planning board tomorrow night is going to be by Zoom. We are also evaluating the Board of Adjustment for having those meetings in June via Zoom as well. Just a reminder to residents that Old Short Hills Road continues to be paved this week, which is resulting in a full closure of Old Short Hills Road while that paving is taking place. Shortly after that, we anticipate the repaving of Highland by the water company. And then shortly after that, we anticipate the restriping of Hobart Avenue and Highland Avenue. This will include center lane, center markers, crosswalks, and actually some guidelines on the outside of Hobart Avenue, which have never existed, just because there is a pretty decent gully or gutter on the side of Hobart Avenue. So this will add some safety to that roadway, and that will follow after the paving of Highland, because the township will be helping with that restriping. And just happy to report that the Short Hills train station roof is now complete. Looks great. None of us will ever have to worry about that in our lifetime. It's got a 75-year warranty lifetime on it. But it does look great, and the contractor did a really nice job. And just a reminder that we are continuing to evaluate and deal with everything that the governor puts out in terms of COVID response and reopening, and what that means for the township, and how we are approaching that, whether it was the tennis courts and the potential for pool openings. Hopefully we'll hear whether that's a possibility or not within the week, but we are prepared and preparing and constantly sort of working towards those things and communicating those out to the public.
Thank you. Mr. Falcon?
Yes, thank you. I'm pleased to be able to report that your Board of Adjustment Attorney, Gail Frazier, and Zach, the Planning Board Attorney, and I collaborated over the course of the last couple of weeks to advance an amendment to Assembly Bill 3919 to extend the time within which the land use boards have to grant or disapprove applications or declare them complete. The bill was adopted on last Thursday unanimously in both houses, and is on the governor's desk. He is expected to sign it quickly. So that will, of course, affect Millburn as well as all of the rest of the municipalities in the state to provide some leeway during this difficult period of the pandemic. That's all for me.
Thank you. Public comment. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Millburn Town Hall will be closed to the public for this meeting. Directions to access our live stream meeting through YouTube and the option to have accommodations made for those who do not have internet access has been properly noticed. There will be an opportunity to comment during the announced public comment period. You must be registered with YouTube in order to comment during the announced public comment period, which is a free service. Please state your name and address so your submitted comment may be properly read into the record. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Millburn Township Town Hall, 973-564-7000. All committee and department contact information is also available on the Millburn Township website. I will now open the public comment period. Excuse me.
Mayor, we opened it up on the chat, so we'll just wait for them to come in, but we do have one comment that was submitted. I'll read that for you guys. It was submitted by Dave Cosgrove of 99 Oakview. He's asking to get an update on the status of the Woodmont Properties development. On the Woodmont Properties project, what is the number of apartments/units Woodmont was seeking or discussing? The status of efforts by the township to develop its own affordable housing projects. And last, an update on to identify other projects or developments that are being discussed or considered, location, address, and size.
Thank you.
We have one comment coming in.
Great.
We're just waiting on Alyssa Sutton to, it looks like she would like to submit a comment. We're just waiting for, to give her a minute to type out her comment. Alyssa Sutton, 75 Mountain View Road. She's asking the status of the downtown tweaks of complete streets.
Well, we'll be talking a little bit about that a little bit later under old business, so I'd like to ask you to just to stay tuned.
So far, that was the only comment submitted.
Thank you. Want to wait a few more minutes? Or that's
I think that was enough.
that's it?
Yeah.
I will now close the public comment period. The committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regard to the items on the consent agenda, 20-116 through 20-119?
Yes, I have a question for 118. One of the current crossing guards had emailed me when he saw the agenda, and he did ask me how this would affect, if this goes through, how this would affect the current crossing guards. His concern was, he told me what their hourly wage is. Would their hourly rate pay change? And I said, I don't have details on that, so I would ask tonight in his behalf.
So this is before the committee has an authorization to go out to bid. The idea behind the privatization and the way that this was done in other communities is that you could have the opportunity to ask the company to first and foremost consider your current crossing guards as their employees. Certainly, the decision as to the hourly rate, I think, is one that would have to be discussed from the standpoint of potential savings for a contract. Right now, the idea behind privatization of crossing guards is is not necessarily, or wasn't the first thought when it came to the cost savings, because the intangible cost savings of having a privatized crossing guard contract is that the traffic bureau is now managing a contract rather than 36 employees, and the private company is responsible for making sure those posts are staffed, that there are backups, that they are making sure that the crossing guards are trained and properly trained. So it's a difficult question to just sort of flat out answer, but I think when it comes to them being able to be taken on as a crossing guard, that is the intention, to make sure that the company first and foremost considers those crossing guards and considers them, as a potential candidate for their contract.
So it would be like when the 911 became a joint dispatch, they had to reapply for their jobs. Our dispatchers in town, these crossing guards, if this contract were to go through, would reapply to be part of this company.
Correct.
Okay.
And also the company would be given their contact information.
Great, okay.
Alex, do other towns contract this out? I mean, is this
Yes.
widely used?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily use the word widely. However, there are several communities, and the trend is that communities are privatizing crossing guards. Westfield and Ridgewood are two of the larger towns that come to mind that have privatized their crossing guard services. And for that very reason that I explained, which is the amount of time, effort, and that is spent by the traffic bureau, which takes away from their ability to perform other tasks in and around schools during that time when they're managing crossing guards and things like that. But it is a trend that has been occurring in communities around New Jersey.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see from here, there are comments, I don't know if you want to read them into the record, Jimmy. I don't know if you can see them, I can barely see them.
Yeah, I can read them if you guys want to circle back. A few more came in, but
Yeah,
Well, I think the committee finishes their questioning.
yeah, I just wanted to notice, I just saw them up there.
So I have a question about the consent, the crossing guards. Did Mara see the contract?
Not yet, because we haven't gone out to bid yet.
So-
This is just an authorization so that we can go out to bid at some point.
And
in
then the
future.
contracts will come in, and then
Well-
if we agree to put it out to bid, the contracts will come in, and then she'll get to see them at that
No,
point?
prior
Before,
to it actually being advertised.
put out to bid. Got it. So we're gonna figure it out first, and then, okay, just make sure that she gets to see that.
Right.
And we are going to request that our current crossing guards have priority in continuing. Yeah, I would hate to see my local crossing guard go, but
Right. Are
anyway.
we obligated, once we agree to go out for bid, are we obligated to go through with the whole process?
No,
Okay,
this is an authorization. So
Okay.
this just gives us the ability to go out to bid. So
Okay.
that, again, it kind of brings
Right.
to the committee's mind that this is occurring.
So, and I just wanna chime in that this came out of like 2 years, 3 years, I mean, it's, the crossing guards
Right.
of the schools have been such a long conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone was really in PTOC safety and then PSAB, like, it's just been this ongoing conversation that everyone was really kind of excited to have this option so that it wouldn't fall under our traffic bureau.
Right, because there was an instance when there was no officer at a particular corner, and he was out on a CPR call, and there was no one to fill it, and that, everyone was like, where's our cop we're used to having, and there was nobody there, so that was a conflict, so.
It just was an ongoing, there was always
Yeah.
an issue, so we were hoping that this is the solution to the never-ending conversation about crossing guards.
Right.
Right, and to assure that our residents and our children have, the driver certainly is safety and security
Yeah.
in our school areas during,
All right.
so, it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to give one point of clarification.
Yes.
To, 20-1117, which is the authorization reimbursement agreement with Essex County. This is an agreement between the township and Essex County for, funding as a result of the COVID-19, crisis. This is, essentially a dollar figure that has been established for the township of Millburn based on the funds that were received by Essex County for the CARES Act, in which we will receive 25% of our FEMA reimbursement. So if we, for instance, if we submit $100,000 to FEMA, FEMA pays 75%, and the county would pay the additional 25%. We are currently working on the paperwork because we want to make sure that all of this is submitted. There is a time frame towards the end, for the end of the year on this money. But this is the authorization to start going through that process. I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
And Alex, how does this fit into our budget? Let's say once the money is authorized or comes in, how is it allocated?
So right now, the expenses as a result of COVID, whether that's sanitation, any overtime that might be associated with it, things like that, has been coming out of the township's storm response fund, which was authorized by the Division of Local Government Services. So the idea would be that any funds that would be received as a reimbursement would be allocated back to that account.
And the purchase of PP,
Correct.
that's
That
all,
is
is
also
also
included.
part of that,
Correct.
Got it,
okay.
okay.
Do-
Are there any other questions from the committee with respect to consent agenda items?
You want to take the questions?
Yes. May I have the questions from the public with respect to these consent agenda items?
these are general comments, so we're okay to continue, Travis? Read the comments. Okay. Alyssa's follow-up question is, what is the overview of the plan? How are they taking into account the suffering of the town's stores? Maureen Baffa and Michael and Maureen Marquetta, 214 Passaic Avenue in Short Hills. The questions regarding the Bauer Center building in Taylor Park, stating having the bathrooms open until 10 p.m. could be potentially dangerous to residents and visitors.
Then they're talking about the lag.
We weren't thinking 10 p.m., were we? No.
That's when the park.
I think these are questions that came in after the public comment period ended, because there's a lag between what happens at the meeting and what we hear on the telephone and what happens on the screen. So if I could make a suggestion, you could clean up the business of adopting the consent resolutions, and then you could reopen the public comment period to accommodate these questions that came in that seemed to have been intended to be addressed by you when you were having the public comment period.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 20-116 through 20-119, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Burstein?
Yes?
Ms. Purvis?
Yes.
Ms. Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to go back to the public comment.
We had the comment from Michael and Maureen Marquetta. There's some back and forth regarding the lag.
Okay.
Perry Urso, no address, is asking will there be another public portion to weigh in on the business plan? Marquetta additionally provided more comments. Ideal surveillance cannot stop the crime. Idea surveillance cannot stop crime progress unless it is monitored. Please don't put people at risk. The Bauer Center bathroom has only been open when a building tenant was present during township events, etc.
You want to talk about the,
Well, this was part of Jesse Mulman's report to us in terms of improvements in Taylor Park. I think this is where this came up, and I think the idea was to have more restrooms or restrooms available because of how busy Taylor Park has been, especially during this downtime. So, but I do think that we should be concerned with lighting. And I did take a closer look at the bathrooms recently. I think
Yes.
the mayor and I walked the path by the bathrooms, and I think the Marquetta's point is well taken. I think we should take a second look at lighting and see whether what our police think about maybe having a police call box, like they have on campuses, to see because if it may not even be for 10 o'clock at night, but when it's dusk or it's it starts getting dark out, it might be useful to have a call box there, just in case aid is needed at some point.
That's an interesting idea. Are the bathrooms open now during the day?
no.
So I think we're really also talking about, are we going to be addressing that now? Should the bathrooms be open during the day, because the park is very crowded?
Right.
And we all read what happened in Jersey City, New York. Human waste was left in parks because people want to go and have a picnic or they're going to buy something to eat, and then there was no facilities, which is horrifying that people were leaving their waste in the shrubs. So is this something we want to address during this period? Should the bathrooms be open and available during the day?
Well, I mean, I think at this point in time, the question is, I don't necessarily think we are at that stage yet. However, the idea was to prepare for this action, and we've looked into this. But again, I think that having the ability to do this and having the ability to quickly open the bathrooms and be able to keep them open and lock them remotely and things like that is something that the committee had committed to last meeting, which we've explored and are pursuing. Whether you put that into effect is a matter of time.
And also if they, perhaps like we don't keep it open till 10, but more till like sundown.
Right, or 6
8
o'clock,
o'clock,
or,
right.
yeah, 6
Yeah,
o'clock or 8
well,
o'clock.
depending on, right, exactly, or,
Yeah.
or it could change.
But I do think we need I mean, I've been in the park, people do take their lunch there, and I think there's definitely a need for bathrooms there that are accessible. And I think when Jesse gave his report, he, you know, we were encouraging him to get pricing on stuff, and I think we should definitely, I think we're awaiting, you know, pricing to do certain other things, right, like a water station and a few other things. But I definitely would like to do those things.
Right, and the bathroom shouldn't wait for the park redo. This is something that really, if you're getting pricing, we could be discussing.
And
Would be-
certainly with so many more people that are in town.
Right, the park is really crowded, and people are being very, very respectful, to my eyes. Yeah. Okay.
I think just to address Maureen's concern, that we will consider safety
Yes,
as we move
that
forward,
safe-
to make sure that we're not ignoring the potential risks involved with opening up a bathroom,
Yeah.
and we'll look into it, so.
Right, along lighting, maybe a call station. Alex, maybe we can look into that.
And the only point that I was making about the timing as of right now and as we're going through this is also the added responsibility and
Cleanliness.
cost of,
Right.
of cleaning. Correct.
Right, right. What kind of protocols do you put in place?
Correct. Occupancy, how many people-
Occupancy, right, and who would monitor that successfully?
Correct.
Right.
The
First,
count-
let's address the trash cans.
Right,
Taylor
yes.
Park. Get that under control.
Right.
Yes, that has been addressed.
Yes, for those of you that followed on the Facebook, that's just an aside that we have addressed the trash issues.
Overflowing trash.
Overflowing trash issues in Taylor Park. And we just ask you kindly, if by chance they are overflowing, that you carry your garbage out of the park and do not leave it next to the garbage can on the floor.
I like the idea, always carry in, carry out. You see that in a lot of state parks. Carry in, carry out. Take your trash with you.
And just an addition to that, while the park is seeing an increase in usage and some heavy usage, we're gonna relocate some big belly compacting trash cans down there so that there's less, you know, as people are using it over the weekend, those will not fill as quickly, and some of them do have foot pedals, so they're contactless. So we're just gonna relocate those where they might not be utilized elsewhere in town right now, short of those train station, for example, things like that, into the park.
That's great.
Great.
Mayor, we do have one other comment that was submitted by Marilee Racebeck, 91 Whittingham Terrace, who supports opening bathrooms but not after dark.
Thank you. Old business, right? Am I correct? Go, I have to close, okay. At this time, I'd like to close public comment. Old business, the Special Improvement District draft ordinance.
So, at the previous township committee meeting, 2 township committee meetings ago, I believe it was April 21st, the township committee had instructed myself and Kit Falcon to begin drafting
Alex, could I ask you to speak up a little bit?
You sure can, Kit, and I will do that. So,
Sorry.
that's all right. At the April 21st Township Committee meeting, the Township Committee instructed myself and Kit Falcon to draft a potential revamp to the Special Improvement District ordinance. As the committee may recall, the township has always had, since 1992, a special improvement district ordinance. And although the downtown corporation, the district management corporation, which was known as DMDA, dissolved in 2018, it did not take away the SID ordinance. However, it was briefly discussed the potential for some changes to this ordinance that would have some positive effect to the way that it was administered going forward. And so, before the Township Committee is a draft of that ordinance, obviously this is the first point in time that you've seen this and that it would be discussed, and that there would potentially be, need for additional discussion, but wanted to get the initial sense of the committee. And again, this ordinance is a revamp of that existing ordinance that brings some more elements to it that bring it a little bit closer to the township itself, and not as much of an autonomous organization as it had been in the past. And certainly happy to, and I know I'm sure Kit is as well, answer any questions that you may have about that draft, and certainly anything that may come up as a result.
Mayor, may I add, thank you, I think that encapsulates it well, but I think that we're at a crossroads right now with our current pandemic in terms of how it's affecting our small businesses. As somebody that shops in town and, has their pizza in town, I do talk to many of the merchants, and I think on a very basic level, there are, many of our businesses are suffering. A lot of our merchants are just a lot of our merchants are just trying to hang on, and I think the usefulness for a bid of business improvement district at this point is actually crucial. It would provide support to our businesses. It would add marketing. It would add a new executive director could do many things in terms of supporting our businesses, and I know that our neighboring towns have successfully used their bids to bolster their businesses. As somebody that's walks our township, we do have empty stores, we do have merchants that are just hanging on, and I think at this juncture, it's actually an urgent matter to try to come to their help, and I would strongly recommend it to our committee to take action.
I would agree with you, Richard. I think a lot of towns that we are seeing that are weathering this a little better all have SID bids, and I look at some things online. There's a small town in South Jersey, Haddonfield, has an amazing website, and everything they're doing is being spearheaded by their SID bid, and that makes a big difference. And we talk about Summit and Cranford and Westfield. They all have this organization that we at Town Hall are unable. We don't function to do that. So I think this is incredibly important. I would just like to ask Kit, what would you think would be the biggest differences in this ordinance to compare to what we had? Like, what are the newest changes? I mean, it's not going to be called DMDA, obviously. So what would be, some of the things that we would talk about that are new in here?
Sure. The prime element that I think runs through all of the significant amendments to the ordinance pertains to the closer meshing of the operations and implementation of the DMC, the District Management Corporation, with the Township Committee. Particularly when significant activities are going to be proposed, or amendments to the bylaws, for example, are to obtain the approval of the Township Committee first. The certificate of incorporation will provide that the corporation cannot be dissolved without the approval of the Township Committee. the appointment of the members, the executive director's salary, you may have noticed, is going to be split between the township and the DMC. Those kinds of things are going to, I think, at least it's your policy, and which we've tried to follow through on, to enhance the potential for the successful implementation of this entity on this go-round. As was mentioned by Alex, the ordinance is still on the books. This is substantially, I think, upgraded. I don't say we've incorporated every possible idea that one can have about this, but I think this is a good starting point and would enhance your policy directive.
Matt,
Oh, sure.
Mayor?
Certainly. Proceed, yep.
I agree with both Diane and Richard that this is very timely and very important to address. I think Kit and Alex, you did a nice job. Can I ask a question substantively about the ordinance proposed? And that will go, I guess, either to Kit or to Alex. But just the advisory board. I'm just curious where that came from, and it's a lot. 7 to 15 members. Well, 15 members seems like a lot. To an advisory committee, so I was just wondering where that came from and
So-
why those numbers.
So Cheryl, I can answer that. And actually had a very nice conversation with Bob Zuckerman from Westfield this morning. And that is essentially where that advisory board came from. And what Westfield uses that advisory board with a fairly activated group is that they form small subcommittees of volunteers that will, be in charge of economic development, planning, different things that affect the business areas, and promotions, whatever it might be, that they're able to form smaller subcommittees of volunteers through that advisory board. That advisory board then
So
pushes that stuff toward
So
the board.
those volunteer committees are all people who are on the advisory board.
Correct.
Okay.
Who picks the advisory board?
That is spelled out in the bylaws of the organization.
So that will be determined once the board of trustees is formed. Then they'll figure out how they're going to select an advisory board.
Correct.
Got it.
So the other thing I would just like to weigh in on, if I may, that to me, one of the big distinctions of this SID over the previous is that we're potentially expanding it to the B2, B3, and B4 areas so that all the business districts are included, the Commons, CVS, Trader Joe's, Upper Millburn Avenue, Chatham Road, so that it's not just the downtown, exclusively the downtown footprint, what was traditionally the DMDA. So we're casting a wider net to engage more stakeholders, property owners, merchants, residents, and really drive communication through all areas of our businesses, not just our exclusively the traditional previous DMDA area.
Did you say Mars Avenue? I'm sorry.
That's also B2.
Mars Turnpike.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that's just something that for Kit and I and for any future sort of presentation or information that you may want regarding, it's just something that the committee should come to a consensus on if that's the geographical area that you envision.
Okay.
Then that can be written, drafted into the ordinance, and also a map provided, I think, which is also
Yes. There are, in section 3, there are 3 placeholders which have to be produced, as Alex has just mentioned, the special improvement district map, the list of properties, and I wanted to point out, while you could have the board of trustees appointing the advisory board, the way I've drafted this, those people are going to be appointed by you. That, of course, can be be changed, but I've heard some discussion about having the trustees do it. I can switch that if that's your preference.
No, I think, Kit, just as a clarification, I think that the discussion, well, what I had said was that it would be done in the bylaws. It would be outlined in the bylaws how they would be chosen, correct?
No, it says that they'll be appointed annually by the township committee, and then that
My
section
mistake.
will be included in the bylaws.
Are we, oh, I'm sorry.
You know, it's just a policy choice. It's not a big deal. If you want to have the board of trustees do that, I'll change the draft here to provide them being appointed by the board of trustees to annual terms. I'm just pointing out that as it's currently drafted, it says they'll be appointed annually by the township committee, the members of the advisory board.
Or it's,
You could leave it like that and have it recommended by the Board of Trustees.
that's what I was saying. Yeah, maybe the board would make the recommendation and we would confirm.
Because they'll be working closer together. We'll be
Right.
more aware of
There'll
the
be an
players.
executive director and,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, I think it should come from their board, and I think that maybe we would confirm their recommendations.
As the 5 committee members, or just the 2 representatives from the township committee?
No, the committee.
The
committee.
entire committee. Are we deciding
You
tonight on
do
the?
it as your, you know, when you're doing your reorganization, you can then appoint them then.
Mhm.
What about
No.
on an interim basis?
Well, you mean in 2021, is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring to so it depends when everything gets set, but, I mean, your first group is gonna be your first group, and then your Board of
Make
Trustees
it as
would
orderly we are.
make the recommendation to the township committee for the appointments for the annual review. I think your first group of advisors will be probably appointed by us, regardless.
Well, yes, but I think that should happen through an open process where we
course.
go out and meet, and what I would suggest is that we form a subcommittee to spearhead that, and in the interest of expediting the process and engaging as many as we possibly can. And then the subcommittee makes the recommendation to the TC in private session. This is our short list, this is what we recommend, and then proceed in the selection process of the 6 individuals, the 2 residents, the 2 property owners, and the 2 merchants.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I
and
ha-
I would agree, go.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, are we deciding on the footprint tonight?
You don't have to.
Well,
But
I think-
you need to give some direction as to where you want the ordinance. So when you're talking about the B2, B3, B4 business districts, those are all the business districts in the township, with the
Right.
exception of the B1, which is the mall.
Okay.
And it excludes any pure residential or any residential
correct,
properties,
right.
so I think it's good to include all of
I
it.
agree. I didn't know if that had to be decided tonight for Kit to write this up if we agree to move forward.
Well, I think that's certain, we certainly should and can.
Yeah, I would agree.
Seems like we have
I hear
consensus.
the
There-
Yeah.
Yes, there's consensus. Cheryl? Do you agree?
Yeah, I wonder whether, that's something, there are towns, I think, that have multiple business districts.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is whether the business districts that are relatively similar should all be under the same umbrella and have a business district that is, but I'm okay either way. If that's what you want to do, it's fine.
I
Well,
think
I
we're
just-
small enough that we could have one. Some of the larger towns that have multiples have
Yeah.
they're very separate and they're bigger towns. I would just keep it under one.
I would agree.
Or I would also think, let's get this launched, and if in fact we are successful, and then we then need at some point to look at this again in terms of multiple districts, based on geography, we could do that at some time in the future. So I would like to raise my hand for spearheading this initiative to start the search process for the appropriate individuals to cast as wide a net as possible and engage all the stakeholders.
And I would too.
And Mr. Wasserman, Committeeman Wasserman, that has served on the previous merchant committee. And my expectation would be maybe to try to start this application process as quickly as possible, so that take the next 2 to 4 weeks to drive engagement and participation with these stakeholders that would like to participate. Perhaps we could also include a bit of a summary of the ordinance, as well as just an overview of the responsibilities, so that people know what they're raising their hand for on the onset, and we could hopefully engage Town Hall to help us with that, to push out those volunteer interest forms, and use all our social media outlets to drive participation, because I think it's an opportunity to really, there's some good things here that are happening with COVID. People have time on their hands, and I would hope that they would raise their hands for such an important organization.
I have a few questions, if we could.
Sure.
Okay, so under the voting members, boards of the, or voting
What page you
members, 11 of the ordinance, it kind of says that you can't fit 2 categories. So for the people that operate a business, they can't own property. And the residents can't own property or own a business. And I feel like those shouldn't be limited in those, and that I actually think it's great when people have more than one hat and roll, like, I mean, of course, I'm saying that but besides it coming from me, I do believe that, like, the people that live in town and own the property, or own the property and have the business, that they're really, really, really invested. And I don't know that we just need 2 residents that don't own property or have a business being on the board. So I just want to bring that up for discussion, and maybe no one agrees with me, but I don't think that, I think there's more value in those residents either owning property or having a business, and there just shouldn't be like 2 residents that don't have either of those roles, or it shouldn't be that limited, because we don't know who's going to be raising their hand during this time. So that's one thing. I don't know if we want to talk about it, or if I should just go on to the other things.
Well, I could ask a question. This is based off a combination of our previous DMDA and other towns that you and Kit have looked at. Where did this determination come from, this categories?
This particular category, I believe, was derived from Westfield.
Okay.
However, Westfield also has a category of somebody who fits into, I didn't get the sense that they necessarily had to be exclusively one.
Okay.
And so, I think it's a valid point. Obviously, the more diversity you have on a board, the better, and that can be diversity in the form of someone being exclusively a property owner, and then you also have a property owner resident. I don't know in that category. I don't know that it needs to be so restrictive, but and I don't know that was necessarily the intention here, and I think the committee can discuss that and see where they want to go.
Why don't we?
Oh, do you want to discuss that? Or
Yes.
we could come back to
Yeah.
it. We don't have to decide it right now, because, or we can,
Well,
or.
we kind of do, because
Okay.
if
Yeah.
we're gonna,
Oh, right,
because in
interviewing.
terms of the interview
Right.
process and what the search criteria is for the candidates, I think it's important that we discuss it. I'd like to hear from Kit first, your thoughts, Kit, with respect to these qualifications or clarifications of the individuals selected for this Board of Trustees.
Yeah, the only thing I can think about the inclusion of 2 residents who neither own property in the district or have a business was to include some kind of view of residents or people who use the district but don't necessarily own property there or operate businesses. But that is a matter which is totally within your discretion. If you want to limit the membership of the trustee board to people who either own property or have a business, you
Well,
could focus it that tightly if you want to do that.
I'm not saying that either, but I'm just saying in that thing, the two residents, like, they could just be residents, or they could be residents that own property or have
Well, then
Business.
maybe the or if they own property, then they're in the property category, or if they own a business, they're in the business category. We'll reserve the resident category for resident only, so we have that
But-
population, that part of the population represented.
I don't think we need two just residents, that's what I'm saying. If it,
Reduce it to one.
excluding,
But the spirit,
You could say
I-
two residents who may be owners.
right, who may, that's all I'm saying, what if you
or a-
don't?
Or a property.
but I think the spirit of this is that that it's not all one category, like it's not, I think the spirit is that it's diverse and it's not, for property owners.
Which you could wind up with if you do either or.
Yeah,
Richard, right.
I think the spirit of this, I mean, your point is really well taken, that, we shouldn't have to exclude anybody, but, and I could appreciate that because we really want, we want the best people serving. But I think the spirit of this is that, maybe you want to really, to get diversity, you don't have 4 property owners, even though there's different ways of seeing it. So, I mean, I think that's
I think
the
what you're
trade-off.
saying is
couldn't
you could
that
wind
be
up with
within-
4, we could wind up theoretically with 4 merchants too, who live in
Yeah,
town and
that's
2 who
right.
don't.
Any
And you
kind
don't
of
have a
category.
pure, like what's Kit's saying, a pure
Residential.
resident, like a Tracy, or, someone who's really, really involved in town might then not make the mark,
But
you
But
know?
there is another committee, there is
Yeah.
potentially their board is gonna
Advisory
have
board.
they're gonna have an advisory board where hopefully we can have a lot of participation.
Well, yeah, we have to make a decision, how you wanna word this.
Well,
Kit,
or-
I think it was Kit.
Or I'm just putting this out there, and then the 2 person that are real estate owners and can be merchants.
Mhm.
What about one person that is all
Doesn't
3
prevent them from
or
being
not?
merchants.
Right, I guess the
The
only
only one
thing-
is number 4 that prevents.
Right, the resident should be the resident. I mean, that's my opinion,
Right.
but I, that's one person's opinion. The other 2 can be both, or all 3, but
No.
there should be residents that are purely residents. Charlotte, go ahead, I'm sorry,
No, I think Richard's point is well taken. And I think the way it's written is you have 2 pure residents, you have 2 pure property owners who may or may not be residents, who may or may not be business owners, and you have business owners who don't own property, which I think makes sense because they have a different interest than a property owner. So I like it the way it's written. I'm okay with the way it's written.
so a business owner can't be a resident?
A business owner can be. There's nothing that says that the resident, anyone can be a resident, but there must be 2 residents who are just residents,
Right,
or two people on the board who must be purely residents, but everyone can be a resident. It doesn't preclude residents, it just precludes a business owner, a property, a business owner to own property in 3.
Right.
So you have pure business owners, and everyone else is,
Right.
and pure residents, and everyone else is impure apparently.
But the other 2 and 3 can be residents theoretically.
2 and, yeah.
Yeah,
And-
anybody can be a resident.
And 3 could
Because if you're in
be
the 4th category, you're prohibited from being a
You
business
must be
owner.
only,
or-
right, you could only be a resident, you can't own. All right, well, hopefully it'll all
Mm-hmm.
work out that way. It will work out that way. Okay, so the non-voting ex officio members. So,
wait, I have
Yeah.
a question. 2 persons who operate a business in the district but do not own property within the district.
Right, so store owner. So
Yes, yeah. Non-resident store
but
owners.
no, it
But
doesn't say
can-
non-resident. It says just, it doesn't
But-
say
oh,
anything about
But do not own
residents.
property,
Resident.
okay,
Right.
They
They have to be a merchant.
yeah.
Wait, but they do not own property, so
Yeah.
they're a
Right.
business owner but not a resident.
Right.
No.
Could be a resident.
They could have,
Right.
no, like, let's say, I don't know whether Tara owns her building.
I don't.
But let's say she doesn't. Okay, so Tara
I wish
rents.
I did.
If she weren't on the township committee, she's a store owner, she's a merchant.
Yeah.
But it's the
She
property
falls under
piece,
three.
the property piece is property, not commercial property, not residential property.
Yeah, it's just commercial.
No, it's property within the district, yeah. It's
Within the district.
downtown property, right.
So if you own a purely
You could-
residential property,
You could own your home elsewhere in the town
Right.
and be a property owner downtown and qualify here. That
It says does not own property within
qualifies
the
you at all.
district.
Or within the district.
so.
Yeah,
so-
just a
sorry.
business, right,
Now,
so.
now, but that means that a property owner.
I think this should be clearer.
could-
Yes,
could-
this whole
could
thing.
could own a all residential building and not be able to, be in that category. Like a merchant could own a residential building but not be able to be in that category. So any property within the district, correct, Kit? Or
I'm
just-
not sure I understand your
Or
question.
just a qualifying
Who
district?
owns a residential building?
Let's,
So let's say
let,
there's an apartment building that's in the district,
Okay,
but the owner of that apartment building is a merchant in town who rents his store. So that person couldn't be in paragraph 3 because he owns property within the district.
You might be limiting people.
Yeah, well,
Like, this
I don't
gets-
think we should I guess that's my
That-
point
well,
too. I
That's
don't
the whole
think
thing,
we-
you're
I-
limiting, you're making people, and this came up in the old DMDA. This was an issue in the old DMDA about how to fit people in different things. So it's just something that like, and we might not have to get to it. I don't know if we have to get to it right now because this is pretty hard to talk about in this moment, it seems like. But it's something to be aware of that maybe we want to think about.
Well, I don't know, do we have to have this clear tonight so we
You
can,
could tailor it pretty easy. You
Have-
could just say, but doesn't own the property in which his business operates.
Right, but, Cheryl, what I'm saying is that, and this is just what happened to the DMDA, there was a point when like, nobody really, there wasn't something that many people wanted to be a part of, and then it was like trying to fit different people into different categories, and hopefully we won't have that problem, but it's something that could come up again.
oh, do you mean to fill the spots?
Yes, because it's so specific, and what if somebody really wants to be on it, but they are, you know,
No, I
they
get
can't,
it.
but they really want to serve on it, so now I think we have
But
this
some everybody
15
has their
advisory
category.
board. Right.
Right.
So it was just limiting. So can I just bring up my other questions, and then we can come back to this, maybe everyone wants to think about how to handle that, but the ex officio member, so does that mean it was what does that mean exactly?
those are two members who don't vote.
Well, we have the town administrator and the mayor, right, I get that, but so it's just, okay, just those two.
Don't
The
vote.
3 is just referring to them, okay, I got that, so they don't vote. And then, my last point is that I feel like at the end of the year, there needs to be more description about what that annual report is, and how the organization is presenting to the township committee. And there needs to be some kind of evaluation yearly from the township committee to make sure that this is working and that we're evaluating it on a yearly
Accountability.
basis. And that if it's not working, it can be easily decided that this isn't working and it could go away.
Well, no, I don't think you want it to go away, but what you
Or
may
be
want to do is
revamped.
say, okay, the people we have on it aren't the appropriate
Right.
people.
Something, I just want some way of us being able to evaluate it. And the evaluation being very clear and then deciding how to tweak it or make it work because it's something new. And I don't want it to be like launched and then never feel like how to, rein it back in.
Is that something that you're saying you would like written into the ordinance?
Well, I guess it's in the bylaws, but there was something in the ordinance about the annual report,
Section
so,
10,
right.
Refers to the annual report. However, I think that certainly the committee can then determine what that annual report will consist of and what your expectations are of that organization and whoever is part of that organization.
Yeah.
But if you write it in the, or you can tie it into the ordinance, but you're gonna be, like,
It's a lot of work to do.
it's gonna, if there's something that you wanna change about what your expectation of that annual report is going forward,
Right.
then you're still
You're-
tied to the ordinance and what.
Okay,
you
so
might
this
wanna
is-
have it, like, as a administrative function rather than a policy function.
So it would go into the bylaws that then get approved by the TC.
Yeah.
I think you could do it that way. Yeah, rather than tying
Yeah,
it to.
the initial bylaws will be drafted by the TC.
Right, okay.
And they can't be amended by the Board of Trustees without approval of the TC.
Okay, so we can address the annual report in the bylaws.
Yes.
Got it,
Yes.
okay.
So let's go back to B3, if we could. Yes? Can't we just say two persons who operate a business within the district?
You could, but that means you may have 4 property owners
Yeah.
who may have different,
But-
they're coming from a different place than a pure merchant, than somebody who doesn't own property, because they're also paying part of it.
So can you say, who are not property, I guess my question is within the district of of the B2, B3, and B4 as outlined? Or within the district
Well,
of
the
Millburn
district-
Short? District is
No,
defined
the
as,
district is a defined term in your ordinance, so the district is whatever it's defined as.
Uh,
It'll be whatever you settle upon and you attach as a map and the properties that are in
Yeah.
What if there's a great third person that
Well,
also
what-
owns a building and thing,
well-
and we just said that they can't do it?
Well, what if we, Kid, is
Well,
it?
you're an advisor.
Yeah, they'll be on the advisory
Kid,
board.
well, Kid, is it possible that, I mean, this is the spirit, I think the spirit of this is good, but, I mean, is it possible that we can put in something that our committee could make an exception, based on,
Qualifications?
In other words, based on circumstance, can we make an exception if if the committee decides on it after we get the applicants?
You could,
Yes, I don't know why you couldn't, you have.
We can do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could have an
Just
exception rule.
Yeah.
If
okay.
somebody's great, we can make an
we-
exception.
By doing that.
I'm sorry, Cheryl, I couldn't hear you.
I said you can pretty much do whatever you want, but you have to make listen, I think that, by writing exceptions into your ordinances, you're sort of just causing yourself some problems down the road. But I think you should leave it as it is. If you guys decide to make the changes, so be it.
just another suggestion, and again, this stems from my conversation with Bob Zuckerman, but you could also limit one of those categories to one person and then have like a one-person category.
A free for all, like
Right,
whatever.
that you can fit into any other category.
I like that idea. Why don't we do that? Why don't we make one of the,
So.
Could be anything.
one,
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Well,
I
could-
think the idea is that you're not, what it's trying to do is not create a majority of a particular
Group.
interest on the
Right,
board.
right, which is
Right.
a good thought.
right, right. I mean, I'm good. I'm not, however, I just wanted to bring it up and talk about
Hey,
it.
your point's well taken. I mean, we don't want to exclude
Sarah, I can't
anybody.
hear you. You just-
Oh, sorry. I was saying that I'm good, I'm okay. I'm good with it. I just wanted to bring it up and talk about it. And so either way, I'm not, if we decide to open one up or not, or leave as is, whatever, if it becomes an issue, we'll figure it out.
Decision tonight, so we can-
Yeah, because your search criteria is gonna change when you're looking at the complexion of the,
Oh, it needs to be decided now.
yes,
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
agree.
That's why I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
whatever everybody wants to do, I'm good with. That's what I'm saying.
Alex, do you know how Cranford is?
That two members are owners of real estate, two operate business. In that fourth category, you could open up then to such other two additional individuals who, in your discretion, you feel ought to be appointed. I mean, and
I
it's not.
actually think you should leave one pure resident and then make the other one discretionary. Everybody happy.
That sounds good to me.
I think that's a,
There's
what
one
do you think?
discretionary. Got it.
Just remember, though, you could wind up with like
Yeah.
3 property owners, which could tilt how things are decided. You know, the whole idea is not to have a monopoly of one category. So if you leave that person as an anything, that is a risk you could have. Just putting it out there.
You guys, we're picking, like, it's not like random people. We're gonna have a lot of control over this
Right,
board.
Right. We
Like,
will-
the TC is gonna have a lot of oversight and a lot of it's gonna be a lot of accountability. We're gonna be picking the
Right.
people, so,
I don't know if you, I mean, it's possible that we can do what Cheryl's recommending, which would be to leave it and then amend it later if we're.
yeah, we could totally do
I
that.
think
you know,
that's probably a
And
maybe
see what
yeah,
happens.
maybe we should leave it the way it is just for timing. I mean, we have an
Cast a wide
we have
net
an
and see.
urgent matter to get this thing going, to help the merchants. And then if we
Sounds great.
need to amend it, we'll amend it whenever we have to.
Good idea.
You know, I mean, I think the spirit of this is good.
Great.
I think I ought to point out at this point that there are a couple of collateral
Oh, we have
things
some-
that are going to be going on with respect to this. We've started,
I can't read it.
you're going to need to file a certificate of incorporation to get this outfit, whatever you want to name it here. We put in this kind of placeholder name,
That's not on there.
Okay.
which will then, when this ordinance is adopted, be appointed as the District Management Corporation. And for the certificate of incorporation, and you're probably going to have to consider a board of trustees earlier in this process. Now, a lot of these 3 things will proceed roughly in parallel, but make sure you have a timeline which will allow you to do what you need to do in terms of vetting people and getting the proper appointments of people that you think will do a good job on the board of trustees.
Right.
So I did a kind of, Alex and I had discussed a kind of back of the envelope timeline. So I just want to ask you if this is correct. So hear me out for a minute, please. So if we start the application process tomorrow, Thursday, some 5:20, and we continue for the community, the stakeholder outreach to cast our wide net, on the 6/2, maybe a closed session TC prior to continue the vetting process. 6/16 closed session prior, if need be, to continue looking at the candidates, and have the first read on 6/16, and then the final passage and on 7/14.
No, you gotta have, I think there's a tie-in between the board of trustees and the certificate of incorporation, which I don't have at my fingertips, but I'll clarify to you and to all of you and for Alex tomorrow. I don't think we can collapse the certificate of incorporation and the first read, although no, now that I think of it, first read, then when would you have second? Then you'd have that the first meeting in July, right? Or
The only meeting in July, on the 14th.
Okay, that might work. And we could pull together a certificate of incorporation while that goes through the first and second reading process.
May I
Yeah,
s-
I think that's
I'm sorry.
a
Kit,
preliminary schedule, but it's potentially workable, yeah.
Kit and Jackie, do you think 2 weeks is enough time to get out volunteer interest forms and get enough
It's
interest?
not 2 weeks, because it's gonna be, it can carry us all the way through the 16th
Okay,
of June.
Right.
So we have a built-in cushion.
right.
Should we need it for the 6/2 and the 6/16.
No one's traveling, so everyone's in town. Okay.
And you know, one of the things I was talking to Alex about also was to find office space in the town, in the, you know, in this building, you know, to avoid spending, you know, a lot of overhead, you know, like what happened last time, you know, where you have an outside office and you know, just for expense and for control, that there's a desk, an office.
And all the
you know,
support services.
And support services, you know, in in town hall, you know, just to start, at least starting out. So we're not shopping for office space, and we're, you know, whoever's working on this, they're in a particular place at a particular time of the day.
Do we charge them for paper clips and staples?
Well, hopefully they'll be needing them.
So Alex, will you put this out on our business list email, like send an email and let the businesses know this is going on?
Of course, yeah, and I think, I don't know whether it fits into the committee's process, but if there's a desire to have any sort of additional information at the June 2nd meeting, we'd be happy to prepare that as well.
Great. And if people want to respond, is that gonna be through Christine and through, or are we gonna set up a separate email for this? How does that work? Or,
I would prefer if people had questions or wanted to provide, to do that through our let us know email address.
okay, so let's just
Let It's let us know at millburntwp.org, and we will also put that on the website.
okay, and the subject line, they'll put, do you want to talk about a name a little bit?
Go for it.
All right, this is what keeps me up at night. I mean, I just threw around an acronym, MISHBO, Millburn Short Hills Business Organization. You know, we can review and revisit it at another time, but,
Invite the mishpucha in.
Not
so,
mishpah.
no,
Mishpah.
Mishbo. So it's you know, I'm not married to it, so whatever anybody thinks.
I like it.
Oh, I like DMC.
I like the
thought
Mil-
I'm sorry,
No,
Tara.
we-
Oh,
Can't
no, it's
start
all right.
with
I
a
like
D.
the Millburn,
No
like
Ds.
Mish, like, I like it.
DMD.
DMC, it's like kind of like a, I don't care.
DMC.
Mishpo, I don't know. Jackie, if you all love it, it's fine.
I just think the fact that just my 2 cents. I just think the fact that we're incorporating all these B2, B3, B4. It's Millburn and it's Short Hills. So yeah.
Right. I'm good with it.
Okay, I'll put that in the certificate of employment.
Wait. Well, let's ask Cheryl Burstein what your thoughts are.
Whatever you want.
Mishpah it is.
Okay.
Mishpo it is.
Let Mishpo live a long,
Easy to
healthy
pronounce and
life.
easy to spell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
We all just agreed on that.
Yay.
That was too easy.
I wanna give-
But, what about the subcommittee?
Oh, so this.
Did that.
Yeah, the
You
You
subcommittee.
guys are gonna be on the
Yeah, so
subcommittee, you're
we're-
gonna start
All good?
interviewing people.
So, okay, we don't.
You've already
vote on that?
determined
Yes.
the subcommittee?
They just did it.
Oh, I didn't hear. I was trying
Yeah.
to read any
No,
new
no, I
notes.
mean, like, we did it like,
Yeah,
if
Well,
you
just the-
backtrack,
yeah.
Okay, so who's on the subcommittee?
they're gonna do it.
Jackie and Richard.
Jackie and Richard. are
Okay,
gonna
so
do-
right.
Yes.
We'll start the initial interviews and bring the finalists to the TC for further review.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, on to old business. Lot 5, entrance, exit, safety improvements. Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, so, I know that this, has been brought up, several times for some discussion, and that the committee and the township traffic engineer the committee had requested the township traffic engineer take a look at this particular issue with the crosswalk at Dunkin' Donuts, and the relationship of the entrance exit in Lot 5. The recommendation was to move the entrance exit, keep the crosswalk where it is, and so I just, in understanding that the committee may want to pursue this further, just wanted to get consensus from the committee before we started down a road of evaluating, designing, getting pricing, and things like that, to bring forward to the committee.
Alex, could I clarify just for people that don't know what Lot 5 is? We're talking about the entrance exit way by Dunkin' Donuts, and we're essentially, in layman's terms, we're talking about taking that entrance exit, closing that, and moving it approximately 30 feet down so that the new exit entrance is basically adjacent to Town Hall. So you're basically moving it down. And when we walked with the traffic engineer, and he looked at that entrance exit way, he also thought it was a bit of a hazard. So, so as low hanging fruit, it would be relatively inexpensive to close that, move it, and reopen that. And that way, when cars are pulling out onto Millburn Avenue and they're making a left onto Millburn Avenue, they're not going right into a crosswalk. And I mean, I just want to lay it out.
Oh, they can't hear. Talk louder. Someone said can't hear.
Oh, so when people are pulling out, when they're pulling out onto Millburn Avenue and they're making a left, which is the only way you can go, in the morning the sun is really in the driver's eyes. So instead, if you're making a left and the entrance exit is adjacent to Town Hall, you're not pulling into a crosswalk.
Right,
You're not exiting into the
right.
crosswalk.
Right.
You're good.
Got
We're
it,
good.
got it.
They were talking about the lag like 10 minutes
Oh.
ago, but you're fine.
Sorry.
I think we all got
Got it?
I think, yeah.
Just wanted
I
to make
think
sure
we
everybody
all
understands.
are
Yeah.
clear about
There's
it.
one thing I would like to add to that. I think for the cost of $4,000, something we had discussed a couple of months ago, since you still are crossing in the middle of a street where there's no corner, it might still be a consideration to have the pedestrian blinking light there, either an automatic trip system or a push button. But I still think it'd be a way, because people are now going to be looking at the traffic light up ahead, and they still want to be aware that there are still pedestrians crossing in the middle of a straightaway. So if we could put that into the bid when we look at the pricing, I think that's important.
How long is that gonna take? Do we have any idea?
Well, and so I don't necessarily have a sense, except for that, we need to design it, and we're going to see how there may be several ways that you can design this. Some that'll be more cost effective than others, as well as, which then also drives into the timeliness of it. The fact is that there is a bid threshold, and if the price of that project gets above that bid threshold, then that will slow down the process. But I think if the committee is committed to doing this, the timing now is ripe for getting this done sometime before July, August, in that time frame where it's going to be less disruptive.
Great.
Right. Mazer Engineering, when they looked at this, actually, Diane, Mazer thought that you would do that, and he actually thought that at some point that you would add some type of striping, that there might be some extra, signage or something that he would recommend.
Right. I like the idea of a blinker. It just catches people's attention.
But if you did it, if my understanding, and
Well,
Alex,
they'll
correct
decide
me,
when
yeah,
it's
yeah.
drawn
Well,
up.
why don't we get pricing?
Yes.
For all of it, and then we can, right, or do we just,
Yeah, I think the idea is we're talking about a construction project on one end, and we're
Right.
talking about an improvement to a crosswalk on the other.
Right,
So I would not include those in the same vein, but they
Okay.
are all part of the system.
okay.
So
Great.
if it's underneath the threshold, it could be done relatively quickly.
Correct.
I think you have your consensus.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Cheryl, right? Are you in?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. I have one other item on old business, and then anybody else that has old business that they'd like to bring up, but, Cheryl, do you have any old business that you'd like to mention?
Well, you and I talked
Yes.
about
Yep,
when we're gonna come back together on
Yes.
the, short-term rental.
yep, that was my item.
And-
Yep,
Yep, and I think that it's something that we need to come back to determine if there is still a consensus to move forward with permitting it in the township. I told Jackie that in light of COVID, I've probably changed my stance on it, and rather than spend time, if the committee has a consensus that we want to move forward, and I'm not suggesting we talk about it tonight, by the way.
right,
Suggesting that we think about it, think about our positions, and then come back at the next meeting to have another discussion. Also, this lets the public know that it will be a topic of discussion, so if they want to weigh in on it at our next meeting, they know that that's one of the items that we're going to be talking about.
yes, and we had drafted an ordinance. We can revisit that draft at some point also to look at that as well, or discuss it, certainly.
Cheryl, it's Tara. Wait, can you just give like a really brief kind of, I'm curious to know what you're thinking about it now
My
versus
thinking
then.
is that I was never that big of a fan of it in the first place, but now with COVID and God only knows what the future is yet to bring us, I don't know that we should have people coming in and out of other people's houses and, people it's one thing, but strangers, I just don't think that our town is meant, it's not something that we're built for. We have
So
hotels for that.
you
and
wanna
that's
have
the discussion of me.
A restriction, you want to have a full-on restriction of it.
A full-on restriction,
Got it.
correct.
Okay.
So we will put this on for future discussion for June. Short-term rentals. Agreed.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else did you want to add, Cheryl?
No, I don't think so, do I?
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have any old business that they'd like to?
Okay.
Committeewoman Eglo.
Thank you, Mayor. This would go kind of back to Alyssa Sutton's comments. I think there's two things that we can still talk about. I think everyone has agreed and heard that the raised parking can be challenging. Something that Maurice had suggested that we look to is possibly moving the bollards back into the sidewalk, which would increase the width of the parking that's available to cars. This is something that could be done very easily by DPW. They have caps for where the bollards go into that Boston stone, whatever that's called, and because those caps were meant there for when we had street fairs. I think if people are still concerned that the parking is very narrow, this is something that could be an easy experiment to try, pick one of the quads to do this on Millburn Avenue. The other thing is that we had talked about, and I had Alex give everyone the diagram, the Town Hall Plaza, something that was left very incomplete in complete streets is coming down Essex Street, and there is a crash conflict there where the guy wires are. I think this was a brilliant plan that was drafted by Rich Keller and Christine Bugel, and I think that I would ask the committee to give permission or to task Maurice to actually formalize looking at this plan. It would give us possibly 16 parking spots. And when things get back to normal, their school will be open, traffic is gonna come back, and there's gonna be the same discussion that we don't have enough parking downtown. Coming down Essex Street, making a left into Town Hall Plaza is sharper than a 90-degree angle. It's dangerous. There's every reason to have Maurice look at this plan, see if it's what we drew up as an in-house project, what the possible engineering's cost would be, and a timeline. And I would strongly encourage my TC members to look at this for a to-do summer project. We will be ready for the fall, and I think it's a brilliant plan that we haven't discussed, and it was just, everything's gonna get put on the back burner, but there are things we can do. So as Alyssa Sutton says, we're not forgetting that the streets were left incomplete, and this is a great project that uses Town Hall that we named on Google what it was intended to do. Have another cut through to not go down to Duncan Street. So I would encourage my TC members to task Maurice, to Mazer, to look at this project and see if it's truly feasible, what the length of construction would be, the approximate engineering costs. Is this something we want to do? Let's do something this summer while the roads are still relatively quiet. Any comments from my TC members?
Well, my hesitation I totally understand what you're saying here. And we did look at this with Maurice, we did take a look at this. But my hesitation is that now that we're looking at revisioning, redevelopment, and we're gonna bring hopefully we're gonna bring to the township, great urban planners and really experts in this. My hesitation is just that we're gonna spend a lot of money, potentially spend a fair amount of money doing this, and and eventually, or in the next year or two, we're gonna have, a redevelopment, revisioning plan, so I'm just wondering whether it's better that we don't spend this money now, and we task revisioning or redevelopment to look at this. I mean, there are a lot of good points in doing that. I mean, and the summer is quiet. I'm just concerned of wasting money and resources doing this. Maurice did look at this. We looked at it actually with him, and
Was there a report written up? Richard, I hear what you're saying. Revisioning can be 1 or 2 years if we're lucky.
Yeah.
The point is, we are left with this.
Revisioning is just 6 months, so stop
No,
saying
no,
1 or
let-
2 years.
Well, Richard just said 1 or 2 years. All I'm saying is this: we have left this condition for 3 years. We all wanted to try to address some of the things that we could address. We don't know what it's gonna cost. And Town Hall Plaza is an official street in the town that is right now not functioning. No matter what happens, Town Hall Plaza, unless we knock this building down and build a new town hall, is always going to be there. And right now, we have a dysfunctioning street. So all I'm asking is we have Maurice make a formal report. You've all said that you wanted to do something. Things aren't getting done. We could have a possible easy fix for the width of the raised parking that you've all complained about. And we have a possible fix to what is right now a crash conflict with guy wires in the street. If you want to leave this, my opinion is we can have these things done in conjunction with the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot crosswalk. These are not big ticket items, or we can just continue to wait and leave these situations where everyone is frustrated and unhappy. And these things would not harm our merchants when things come back. These things are not going to be a conflict for pedestrians. In fact, this project has safety features. It adds a crosswalk at a safe crossing distance, and it adds sidewalks across S Street that we don't have. So I am putting it out there that this should be looked at as a formal engineering look by Mazer. So if the 4 of you don't want to do that, I understand. But this is my recommendation to my committee members. Or we just continue to do nothing and we wait and wait and wait. This will not change any downtown big project that's going to happen. So, okay. And I have one more item of no business, but I'd like to hear from all my members if they just want to shelve this and wait for something else to not happen.
William?
Please.
Okay, I just want to make sure you know I'm speaking. On the moving the dollars, it's sort of a no-brainer. I can't imagine that's going to cost very much money at all. And even asking Maurice or Mazer Engineering to provide some engineering for that street. It can't, we're not talking big bucks here, we're probably talking, a relative minimal amount of money, so I'm not sure that it is, it may make sense. I mean, she's right, town hall bond is there, and
Are you
we need to figure something out with it.
are you referring to the parking lot or where the entrance that turning, or both?
I'm talking about whatever the schematic was that you guys worked on, I guess, last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, that. And some bollards, I think they should be moved. We've talked about that for years.
Cheryl, would you want to move all the bollards, or would you want to test maybe a quad or one side of Millburn Avenue? I mean, I'd say move them all back.
You can do a task, you can do,
Okay. But like, we have to do something, you know, we're all sitting here hearing the
I
complaints.
think they should all be moved.
I agree.
The space is too narrow, they should be moved back so that at least, so long as they're there, people can park without, being as tight as it is.
Is there any reason that I don't know of not to move them?
I don't know that,
Why haven't we moved them?
What?
Because we haven't talked about it.
yeah, and also I don't know that was.
Well, wait a minute, that's not completely true.
Cheryl?
Yeah. So one is I don't know that in particular was Maurice's recommendation, Mazur's recommendation. I think it was to
Alex,
remove.
speak up, please.
Sorry. It was to remove the bollards.
Mm-hmm.
That's really different than move the bollards.
Correct.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is just take a quick second. If the committee's okay, I mean, look, it doesn't take us anything to look into this and see what it would take to move bollards. All right, because we had done an evaluation of all of the flexible parking solutions probably about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, something like that, in which moving the bollards back was one of those solutions. So we can go back to that report. We can take a look at what that would entail, and whether we can, whether it is the current bollards we have or if it's some other solution to moving the barrier back. Because I don't know that removing the bollards is
Right,
is
that
a
doesn't
solution.
seem safe to have
So
nothing.
I think that we can take a look at this based on the evaluation we did about 2 years ago, see what that would be, what it would cost, what it would take, and how we can do that safely with a minimal amount of sort of bollards or things like that are are impediments there. So because bollards being there, I think will also provide you have to have some provide some guidance, but also whatever you put there is going to still be something that people are parking up against, and you need to make sure that we take a look at this. So if the committee is willing to go forward with that, we'll take another look and we'll go back to that report and we'll come back with something for you.
And actually, when I walked with Maurice, and actually I think Tara walked with us, was there also. Maurice talked about removing the bollards, but testing a particular, take it out of half a block, or take it out of a particular area to test it. He said that. That's my recollection of what he said, as opposed to moving.
Okay, I misspoke. I didn't mean remove. I meant move something back. Okay, I correct myself.
Whatever it might be.
Whatever, to give a little more width for parking and the sidewalk.
But Maurice did take a good look at that. Maybe we can clarify what's possible.
And is that something that we can do, our DPW department can do, or do we have to hire an outside construction firm?
I think it depends. I think I wouldn't be quick to say they couldn't, and I wouldn't be quick to say that they can, because it depends what that solution looks like. If it's a matter of bolting in bollards to the concrete, sure. If it's a matter of putting something in that similar to the mechanism that is currently there, then I think that would be a bit much. But I think that let us take a look at it, and we can come back with a solid idea.
Great.
And then lastly, as far as Town Hall Plaza, Cheryl, would you consent to having Maurice look at this diagram that we have from our in-house engineering and see what's feasible, what the cost is, an approximate, and a time frame?
Yeah, I don't object to having Maurice look at it. I mean, that we're not saying we're gonna do anything with it, but I think it probably makes sense to have him look at it.
So I do object to having him look at it because I cannot, like, I would not plan to spend any money on this area when I know that this whole thing is going to be looked at in the near future and talked about and discussed. So I for sure wouldn't go ahead and feel comfortable spending money on this because there's a good chance that things will be moved around, and so that's how I feel about it.
And I actually would totally agree. I mean, we're bringing it, we're doing revisioning, we're really looking at everything. I mean, we would potentially spend, you know, whatever it is, 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is, to put in the parking spaces, and then when we have
I don't
our.
want to, oh, sorry.
Oh, I don't know what the
I-
amount
yeah.
is. I don't know what the amount is. Whatever it would be to put in those parking spaces, and then we would be reluctant, you know, when we do revisioning,
Right.
we might be reluctant, oh, we can't touch that because we just spent all this money on it.
I don't think, but we would get a really added, useful safety benefit from doing something. So, okay, Jackie?
that's just
Yeah,
my
I hear you.
objection.
Hold it, we're not talking about doing it, we're just
Right.
having him look at it. We
Right.
weren't talking about spending money doing something.
Right.
Two different things.
I think we should look at it. I think it just makes sense just to see what the costs are. And then make the business decision once we know what the costs are.
I don't want to be a hog of the time, but I have one more item of new business.
I have one also.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl and Jackie. I hope we get a positive report from Maurice. Time is moving very fast. The ordinance to ban single-use plastics takes effect June 12th. I have spoken to the managers of ShopRite, King's, and Trader Joe's. While they all are in favor of the ordinance, they feel now is not the ideal time for several reasons. Their first concern has been and continues to be the safety of their workforce and shoppers. It has been incredibly stressful getting their stores in compliance, and they have been very successful. Trader Joe's is not allowing its customers to bring in their own reusable bags for safety, public health reasons. They don't even want customers bringing in umbrellas. They leave them in the outside. ShopRite and King's will not touch customers' bags, and they all three managers said due to disruptions in production due to COVID, paper bags are now actually harder to get. One manager said, who used to work in another store, another town, that it was challenging when they rolled out this ban in his store pre-pandemic. His words was, this may cause a negative backlash to a really positive ordinance. The fact that New Jersey is still under Governor Murphy's emergency stay-at-home orders, the Environmental Commission and Green Team have not been out and about to refresh, re-educate, and remind our residents and our merchants who may not readily bring their reusable bags. And then the township, through this ordinance, is forcing the retailers to charge this fee. Retail literally opened yesterday after 8 or 9 weeks. I think we need to give our merchants time to retool and get up to speed. There are towns in New Jersey whose ordinances have not yet gone into effect, and they have all decided to put a temporary pause on the ordinance enforcement dates. I believe very strongly Millburn should do the same. I am for this ordinance. I was part of the Environmental Commission that drafted it. And I just want to read quickly a letter we got from the store manager at ShopRite in Millburn. As the store manager of the Millburn ShopRite, her name is Amanda Fisher. But this is from David, the manager. It came from her email. I am proud to
Wait, are
serve.
we allowed to read? I thought we're not allowed to read other people's letters.
Can I read his letter into the?
I thought we weren't allowed to do that as policy. Is that,
Well,
am
we
I
read-
making it up?
We've read letters before.
I'm not sure that we've ever run into that.
Okay.
Kit, do you have any sense of that?
No, I don't recall that as being a question that we've dealt with before. I think
You can
I think
summarize.
people who came to the podium during public comment, if they had a letter, were encouraged to turn it into the clerk so that it could be made part of the record. But I don't know that members of the committee have been prohibited from reading letters.
I feel like we had that discussion, sorry.
No, okay. So I'm going to just read this quickly for the record. As the store manager of the Millburn ShopRite, I am proud to serve your residents and our community during this unprecedented time. My team has been hard at work keeping our shelves stocked, but most importantly, implementing new safety protocols so we can keep Millburn residents safe. Every decision made these past 8 weeks has been with safety in mind. I know the plastic bag ordinance is slated to begin on June 12th. Although during normal times we would fully support this sustainable initiative, current circumstances may make things more difficult for both my team of heroes and the community at large to comply. In order to protect our cashiers and limit their exposure during interactions with customers, we do not allow cashiers to bag orders with outside reusable bags. However, we will gladly bag orders for customers with any of our own bags. With that being said, if this ordinance continues as scheduled, we would have tens of thousands of additional reusable bags being brought into our stores, obviously all of ShopRite, in close proximity to our team members each week. Since cashiers are unable to assist in bagging with these reusable bags for their own safety, it would also cause the average transaction time to slow down and increase wait times for all customers. We are doing everything we can to get customers in and out of the store quickly. This is a stressful and uncertain time for both our associates and our customers. Adding a big change like this may not be the best time for either of them. I hope you consider possibly postponing this to a later date when we are better equipped to handle the communication and training it would require to make this initiative successful. Even though this letter is from David at the Millburn ShopRite, this actually expresses what Frank from King said and Brian from Trader Joe's. So I'm asking, again, my committee members to take a pause and look at the times we are in. We are in a pandemic. We are in phase 1. Hopefully phase 2 will be rolled out quickly under governor's orders, and that is my position. And I would just like to hear the reasons why, how you feel either way.
I'll start. I feel because we are in a pandemic and because people's shopping habits are different and many people are getting more and more deliveries, that it is the ideal time to start, because as things are in a different phase, that there is less traffic in some of these stores, and that it's an opportunity for people to kind of ease into the process. We've made a commitment, and I understand that there is a pandemic, but I don't, people can, what I'll call the Costco method of shopping. When they go to Trader Joe's, they can check out, and when they get to their car, they can load their items in a bag in their car or a box in their car. I don't see it as such a hardship to the merchants, because they can't touch or bag their own groceries. There's many stores and establishments that is their policy. You don't bag your own grocery. You bag your own groceries. It's not facilitated by a checkout person. So I think that we should continue and move forward with the June 12th date.
I feel the same. I think with Diane, I mean, you and I campaigned, on getting this plastics ordinance passed. It was a lot of hard work, and I think it's really good long-term for the town. And I also agree. I mean, when I go, there are stores that you go to like Costco, where you put in your cart, you bring it to your car, and there's no bagging, And I think that may, if that method is available, I mean, you don't need any paper bags, you don't need anything, just bring it to your car. And with that argument, I mean, why should we wait? We've worked so hard to get to this point, and I think it's important for our environment.
Cheryl, would you like to share your opinion?
I'm okay with leaving it as is.
Okay.
I've had this discussion before. I don't want to have it again, so I think we're just moving forward with the time.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one more item of new business I'd like to discuss. The CETA committee met last week. And we continued our discussion about a public art installation in Taylor Park. And the idea is that it would be some kind of sculpture that would acknowledge our historical past and would speak to the mission of community engagement and diversity. The sculpture piece could have some non-stationary elements, would not be interactive. We have met with engineering. We surveyed the area with respect to floodplain and agreed that the best location would be on the side along Main Street facing the Bauer Center. Jesse Molman had, the next stage would be to prepare a EQI, which is an expression of interest inquiry that would seek artists that have had previously public art experience, and have them weigh in on their concept and their art vision. The idea would maybe to include a mill wheel concept, but it would not be essential. And the thought would be to review 5 finalists, and then that resonated the most with CETA, with our mission and philosophy, and then look to the TC. This would be a in-house township initiative that would be funded by the township, and we've capped the the design, the installation, and the total budget at $25,000. So, which for public art, I'm told is a relatively small piece for a well-known artist that has had some experience in the public domain. So I'm just asking my fellow TC members how they feel about this. I think it would be a great addition to our community. We have very little public art, and it's all concentrated at the library currently. And I think this would just be another great addition to Taylor Park, which is, as I believe, one of the crown jewels of Millburn Township. So I'd like to ask you how you feel about it, and hopefully have your support.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Me too.
Okay? Committeewoman Burstein? You're good too?
The only question I have is on, as we discussed, the issue of whether it's going to be whether the request for this proposal refer to anything interactive versus not necessarily static.
Right, so I said that it could be non-stationary, but would not be interactive.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
yes,
Good.
yes,
I'm 100% for it.
great. And we've also had the Art Advisory Committee help assist us as well with some of the guidelines. Great, well, I will discuss this further with Town Hall, and we'll get this proposal out, and hopefully we have a timeline. It's somewhere, forgive me a second, but kind of looking at beginning to kind of look kind of mid-July, August, so closing somewhere around the mid-September. So don't hold me to the timeline in the COVID world. So great. I appreciate your support. It's something close to my heart, and I'm very excited about it. So thank you, TC members.
Can we just address Dave Cosgrove's?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
do we have anything else? I think, no. He just.
I can't see it.
Yeah, so he just wanted to know, like, if his questions are gonna be answered.
I'm sorry.
I can't read his question.
They were the ones submitted earlier.
Okay.
Earlier, if like,
Want to read them?
Yes,
Do you want
or
Do you want to
I
read
think
them
would you like to respond?
I think Kit should
Okay,
weigh in on
great.
the questions.
Kit, would you like us?
You want to read it
We're
again
talking
for
about, I think we're talking about Mr. Cosgrove's questions?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the litigation in which the township is currently engaged for the declaratory judgment and the efforts that have been made by Woodmont to intervene in that case And you may remember that their motion to intervene was denied by Judge Gardner. They are still attempting to accomplish that, as I suspect Mr. Cosgrove knows that because that's all public information. There is no change in status of the Woodlawn Properties development. It's where it was at the time that the judge made that decision. As far as the status of efforts by the township to develop its own affordable housing projects, there's none of that that I'm aware of. And as far as any other projects that are being discussed or considered, there's also nothing in that department. So I think that's probably responsive to his questions to the extent that I can without getting into our strategy or litigation approach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kit.
May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.